Today's episode is brought to you by Diane Kinlaw of Go Prime Mortgage and Jamie Tulak of eXp Realty.
Thank you for listening to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast. Visit guyswhodostuff.com. You probably shouldn't Google that.
All right, welcome to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Josh.
This is the show where we help you get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question, what are you doing today? And very excited in this kind of phase one-ish, two-ish reopening to be back in the studio with Josh and with our guest, Keith Ramsey. How are you doing today, Keith?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
We're excited to have you, man, because you are in an industry that is kind of, you were essential, so you got to stay open.
Absolutely.
And I imagine you guys kept busy. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so we were, the ag commissioner deemed us as essential before the governor started lining stuff out.
Right.
And thank goodness we were open. We were a place to get out of the house. Everybody was working in their yard. It was a healthy environment. It's outside.
Right.
So we've been busier than we've ever been.
And you've also got a podcast.
We do. Yep,
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we started doing a podcast about a year ago, In the Garden with Keith Ramsey. Mm-hmm. And it's been really good. It's a good way to get information to customers and be out there.
Yeah, so your garden supply company.
Right.
You got a beautiful store.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing out there.
Great place to hang out. I always tell people if you have half a day in Cary, just go there, or Apex, just go there.
And you're kind of off the beaten path, so I think you might not get a lot of road traffic.
Right, we don't. Located? It's definitely word of mouth at 1421 Old Apex Road, and it's really in the middle of nowhere in Cary. It's dead in the middle of Cary, and but it's just kind of an odd side street.
You said something that I thought was interesting last time we were hanging out, that you feel that you are helpful for people's mental health during this time. Like, you're essential for another reason, which is people get an opportunity to get out in their yard and do something with their afternoon, which I found to be very useful for my mental health during this whole lockdown thing.
Yeah, it's a proven fact that the gardening is good for your mental health. Your serotonin levels spike and go through the roof when your hands touch soil for the first time. And then taking anything from bare ground to an improvement is obviously just visually, mentally,
relationally.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to listen into one of your podcasts recently and found out what I did wrong and why I killed all those plants I put in my front yard about 3 weeks ago.
Right. And and that's the thing with the podcast is it's weighted to get information. I mean, there's things that I've said in my life 10,000 times or 100,000 times to each individual customer, or how to plant a plant, or why soil amendments really make a difference. It's nice to be able to say it one time and hopefully have 100 people or 5 people listen to it.
I appreciate your format too, because like the episode I got to sit in on, it was how to plant an annual bed, and it's maybe a 10-minute podcast, and you can just listen to it while you're doing the thing. And I liked your advice. You should be able to do this in the time it takes you to drink a cocktail.
Right, absolutely.
That's like the perfect thing. Like you head out to the garden supply store, you do what you want to do, you listen to the podcast for instructions while you do it, and enjoy a drink. Like, that's a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why did you get into owning a nursery, owning a supply company?
I think it was child abuse. My parents.
Very common answer for business owners.
My parents used to, they would force us to work in the yard as a kid, picking up acorns or planting plants or spreading mulch or whatever it was. And as much as I hated it then, I think I just grew into loving it. And I was an oddity that very early on, that's what I wanted to do. And then my parents told me that horticulture wasn't a career, it was a hobby. So, once they told me that I couldn't do it, then it was all on.
Right. How big is your place out there? It's a large facility.
It's about 5 acres. And it's an interesting scenario from a retail standpoint because, like, when you go to get a garden center approved with the town, it's something that they don't really understand because they're used to measuring square footage in a building and trying to figure that out. But we're retailing inside and outside.
Is your whole space zone commercial then?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can retire whenever you want. Just sell that.
it's a long postage stamp, cheap piece of land.
You back
I
up
better
against,
keep working.
Yeah, you back up against a pretty main road though, right? Like, isn't 64 behind you?
Yeah, so old Apex Road used to be US 1. So before 64 and 1 came in, that was the main drag through there. So if you go on down 1 and, right, the property that's right next to us, we use as a community garden now, but that used to be the Cary inefficiency. It was Cary in efficiency. And, but it was a kind of a sketchy place.
Right.
Yeah, but it was an old hotel motel. So I have customers come all the time that said, when we first got married, we stayed there, or when we would go to an NC State game, we would stay there. In the latter years, I don't think many of our friends and family were staying there, but they finally they took that down. But that was the main drag. It was US 1 all the way through.
So many of us were told by our parents to do crap in the yard often, and I think our attitudes probably weren't, yeah, I'm going to turn this into my life profession. I mean, what motivated you? Like, what is it about gardening that
I like propagating plants. I like growing plants. I like the design aspect of it. It's figuring out the science behind it. It's kind of what drives me. They would have monkey grass or liriope, probably the most common plant on earth. They had it bordering every bed in their yard and growing up. And then I would divide that and pot it up and take it to the local nursery and sell it to them. And I sold them a bunch, and then realized I didn't have any pots left. So the next batch I sold them, I said, look, I still want $1 a pot, but you got to give me pots to replace the pots that I give you. So, so he would give me the pots, I'd fill them up and bring them back and sell them to him. And that was at 13 or something, So I'd turn around and make $500 selling 500 plants. I'm like, this is not a bad gig.
Yeah, for a 13-year-old.
Right, exactly.
Like running an empire.
Yeah, exactly.
What a horticulture story this is. I mean, you have a lifetime at this.
Yeah, I honest to God do. I'm like, it's the oddest scenario ever. When I went to school, I'm like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Every class I was in or everything I was thinking about doing, it's like, how is that going to, turn out?
So then how did it turn into a business?
I started a business with the garden center that I sold plants to. I worked for them from 13 or 14 on through college, and then started a landscape company with them. Get too young to have a business and kind of not enough knowledge and not enough. I wasn't settled down enough. So I did that for 3 or 4 years through college and shut that down, and then went to work for a company and gained some experience. And when I moved to Raleigh, I actually moved down here with the company I was working for in Richmond and Virginia Beach. And then my goal was to open up a garden center in Cary, and 2 attorneys opened it up for me. And within about 3 months, they were going through a divorce, and they had spent 2 years putting it together, putting the infrastructure together, finding the land. And so what I had decided to do was I said, if I can't build a garden center, I'll just associate myself with the new garden center. So I had gone in and I was helping them out. I would do their deliveries, I'd do their consultation, their design. And 3 months later, they were basically being foreclosed on. And I was able to work it out with BB&T to pick it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it was.
So you came here knowing that you wanted to do a garden center in Cary.
Yep.
What was it about? What was it about Cary?
I always wanted to build a garden center. I came here because Cary was just so green and so clean. I mean, I would
the
drive.
Trees here are crazy.
Yeah, I would drive down Weston Parkway when Bland did Weston Parkway years ago, and it was just, it was like Disney World. I mean, everything, there wasn't a leaf out of place. Everything was perfect.
And Cary especially is very proud of their trees. Like my daughter is in a choir, and they sang at a tree thing where the town was celebrating how good we are at trees. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the honest to God truth. I mean, people talk about how hard it is to find anything in Cary, and it's the truth. I mean, the gas stations are set back, and the buffer zones, and you just don't, there's not many places in the country that there's a 30-foot buffer on the front of a property.
And after you get used to it, it's great. But I remember when I first moved here from Michigan, where every 6 feet was a giant billboard and a 30-foot tall McDonald's sign. So you knew where everything was from a mile away. It was a little bit frustrating. It's or it was a little bit like an adventure. You'd get off in an expressway and you're like, oh, there's a whole nother town here. Yeah. It just looked like it was nothing when you drive all the way through, other than if you pop down 40 and it's your first time in town, the first thing you really see is the skyline. everything else is so set back and behind trees that it just looks like it's this tiny little suburban neighborhood until you pick an exit and you get off and it's like, oh, there's a whole thing here.
Right. Exactly.
It's pretty amazing. So tell me a little bit more about, I know that people that are passionate about their trade, their skill, they invest all the time. That's you. You learned botany when you were 13. That's not normal, but you're excited to figure out how plants work and stuff. And it's always been a passion. What was the learning curve like from going from awesome, I get to do my passion, to now I'm running a company, which a lot of people feel like that's a whole different thing. Like,
absolutely.
I didn't sign up for that thing.
It's pretty funny because when I was 14, 15 years old, the owners of the garden center gave me the keys because they would go out for dinner and drinks on Friday, and they would be late to get there and open
Perks of owning a garden center.
Yeah. They'd come in at like 10 o'clock and there'd be 100 cars there. So I said to them, I'm like, give me the key so I can open it up and sell stuff. I literally, when I was a kid, I would open the door, open their cash registers, and I'd be ringing stuff when they showed up in the morning. So I had experience in that, from that respect. I mean, opening and closing a store and selling plants. When we opened, I'd gone down to BB&T and I gave them a business plan and pitched it, and they said, I've got 10% to put down or 20% to put down, but I'm like, that would be all my money. So I said, I really need to put zero down. And the banker told me that, he said, there's no way that's going to happen. And I'm like, well, who makes a decision?
What year was this?
This was in 96.
96. Okay.
Yeah. And he said, well,
that's back when they were giving money to everybody.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah. And I said, who makes a decision? And he said, my boss. And I said, where's your boss? And he said, he's on the 17th floor. And I'm like, well, he needs to be down here reading my business plan. And he said, well, I basically read through everything, then I'll send it to him. And I'm like, is he here today? I'm like, get him down here. So he came down and he's looking through the business plan. He's like, what's a staying in business auction? I'm like, well, you've heard of going out of business auctions? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, it's a staying in business auctions, the same thing, but you just use the money from the auction to stay in business. And he's like, give him the loan. Yeah, that was the sold right there. It was
part of your plan was to sell off a lot of the assets so that you could stay in business.
Right. We had a bunch of stuff that we did not want to carry moving forward. Yeah. And then you always have scratch and dent and broken pots and rusted iron, and and it's just the nature of the garden center business. My thing was, we'll get into the first season and we'll have an auction, and it'll be like a party. I mean, we'll have put up a tent and we'll have drinks and we'll have food and we'll invite everybody over, and it'll be an auction, and the stuff will sell for whatever it sells for. But then that was how we were going to fund the garden center.
That's awesome. So you have this big facility out there, and it's fun to walk around. There's all kinds of different. It's a fun store to shop in. It's not a big box feel. Like, it's not like you're walking around Lowe's. Right. It's the kind of thing where it's like, if you just wanted to browse and shop and hang out, you'd want to go over there. Yeah. It's almost like it's kind of like a park / shopping experience, and it's big and fun to walk through. What kind of things do you do to kind of maximize that space? Do you guys have a lot of events? Do you do classes?
We do. We do classes and workshops. We do events.
What's the strangest thing you guys sell that you think that people are surprised that you sell?
We sell all kinds of stuff. We do a lot of salvage stuff. We'll go out and you see on American Pickers, I mean, we go out with 2 or 3 box trucks and we'll hit a place and we're buying salvage architecture pieces, old windows, doors, anything that you could find on Pinterest, driftwood. We sell piles and piles of driftwood, all different types of reasons.
Missed that part.
It was sold out when you were there.
Yeah, sold out.
Every time I go visit my sister in South Carolina, I'm like, how big of a piece of driftwood can I take off this beach without somebody noticing me? Like,
well, now that you have a big truck, you can do that, Joe.
But you kind of have this fear in you. Like, I probably shouldn't be taking this giant piece of driftwood. But I kind of want it.
I kind of want it. You have chicks in there now, I noticed.
We do. One of my guys came to me during the
chickens.
All kinds of chicks.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, this is not just for men.
Yo, it's a great place for everyone.
The chicks are why the men like to wander around.
I mean,
yeah, we have chicks and beer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, do you have beer?
We do have beer. We've partnered with Bond Brothers.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I have not been there in a long time, and I need to go back.
Yeah. So we keep a keg there so that when there's a guy that's not interested in gardening, we try to get them interested in gardening.
I find that there are very few times in life where I enjoy a cold beer any more than like after mowing the lawn or after doing some kind of manual labor in the lawn. Like, that's like the best time.
Oh, yeah.
For a cold beer. And not like a really heavy one either. You know, like a light.
Yeah, like a local.
Like a local, like something
a local
local.
IPA.
Yeah, my 7-year-old loves to go there not only for
I
the.
thought you were going to say my 7-year-old loves local IPA.
No, now I know another reason for me to be there and let him explore. He likes to make a game of finding the cat.
Yeah,
he loves the cat.
Exactly. That cat's money.
Sweet cat.
Yeah, I mean,
So you guys got like a celebrity cat. He's like the Where's Waldo of the garden supply
and there's
company.
there's people that just come in. You were talking about people coming in and wandering around like it's a park.
Right.
That's one of my favorite things. I mean, people are like, when I'm stressed out,
Yeah.
I like to just come over here and just wander around. And they got no intention of buying anything necessarily, but they just need to unwind. They need to get out. They need retail therapy.
Right.
They come out and just wander around. But there's people that also just come out just to see the cat, that can't have a cat at their house, or that don't want a cat at their house.
Yeah, I should let my kids go see the cat because I don't want a cat, and that's a great plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let me know when you go because I want to go.
Hey, somewhere here there's a cat. Pretend it's yours. You got an hour. Let's go.
So,
and for the men, there's a cold beer waiting. You got to know who to ask.
That's what I'll do.
So the new thing that we found fool's gold in all the granite that's in the past at the walkways. So so when kids come in and they're bored, I'm bored. I want to go home. I'm like, there's fool's gold right on the ground. And then now you see these kids wandering around, and it just comes from the quarry. It's got like nice little blocks of fool's gold in the granite. So
I would have to imagine my 13-year-old, and most 13-year-olds would not have the love of horticulture that you had as a young man.
Right.
My daughters would be. That'd be one of the stores we walk in, and they'd be like, "Can we go? Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah. You said it. You said it was only going to be a few minutes.
We've been in here for 2 seconds. That's the way my kids feel about every store that I like. That's what I've come to realize. Every store that I want to browse in, there's no interest from them. Yeah. All right. As a business owner, how long has the garden supply company been in business?
We've been here. We've been around 23 years.
23 years.
Yep.
And so what are some of the things that you think are the key ingredients for the staying factor when there are so many businesses, brick and mortars, that are struggling in the age of Amazon? Like, you're one of the few. Like, Amazon doesn't really compete with you, right? They might sell seeds, but they're not bringing a tree to your house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Amazon actually has started shipping a lot of plants, but you're going to get a plant that's about the size of your thumb,
and it's been in a cardboard box thrown around the back of a truck.
Yeah. It's not a smart way to buy plants. When I look online, I'm like, I wish we could sell all our plants at that price. I mean, you're paying 3 or 4 times the price with the shipping, and then you're going to end up with a plant that's just tiny. That's not something that's a landscape plant. So, we've probably the thing that differentiates us is we're a true landscape nursery. We stock lots of plants, and we keep them in stock 12 months out of the year. So a lot of people get into plants in the spring season and then get out in the summer, and then they'll get back in the fall for a little bit. In North Carolina, you can plant for 12 months out of the year. So the ground's never too frozen to plant. And planting in the wintertime is an amazing time to put stuff in the ground. The top of the plant's dormant. The roots will continue to grow 12 months out of the year. So your roots get established before summertime. So we stock a huge quantity of plants. So that's different.
I hadn't considered that. Like, every time I'm planting something in the yard, I'm sweating profusely because it's 95 degrees out. I'm always doing it in the middle of summer.
Yeah. So, I mean, when the temperature's 50 degrees, you're not going to break a sweat.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the people. I mean, we have 60 people on staff.
Really?
So, yeah. And like Chip Ford has been with me 22 years. A lot of our people have been there. Kitty Maz, our general manager, has been there 15 years. So there's a lot of knowledge when we basically hire for passion more than knowledge. And then that passion is just when you got the passion for plants or for people or for retail, the knowledge comes really quick. I mean, you soak it all up.
Yeah.
That's interesting to make note of for this. Yeah.
That's a lot of staff. Do you have a lot of summer workers? Is it like mostly college?
Well,
like,
we slow down during the summertime, but we probably one of the coolest things I've done over the years is taught 500,000 kids work ethic. We'll start with. I mean,
how young do you guys hire?
14.
Oh, so you're like the competition for your Chick-fil-A young person job out here.
Exactly. Yeah. And we try to really push kids. I mean, we push them hard. Parents will come in like, I'd love my kid to work here. And I'm like, well, maybe because we're brutal. I mean, we stay within the law. We push them as hard as we can push them. One of our things is we're paying you by the hour. So when you're moving from one place to the other, we want you to run. It's a little bit like Army.
It's a 5-acre thing.
Yeah,
so.
and the kids that run that actually buy into that are the ones that end up to be aerospace engineers. And I mean, the number of kids that we've run through here that are out there in the world, doing amazing things, or much larger than gardening.
That's awesome.
That is a big deal.
Yeah. But that's kind of fun. It's fun, and probably one of the more rewarding things, and probably one of the more frustrating things. I mean, kids come in, they don't even know how to find the bathroom, and you get them oriented, and you figure out which ones are going to work, and you turn some over, and then you train the rest, and you've got them for about 4 years, and then they move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, Josh and I are big fans of our area, and one of the things that I think is cool about Cary and Apex and the surrounding area around here is you really get some very cool, like, small business, local business things that pop up.
Yeah.
And you have been doing this for 2+ decades now. What do you think would be some advice you would give to somebody that's just starting out in our area, starting a small business?
To start with, I mean, I think if you're going to start a business, it's like I always try to talk people into jumping into it. It's, when you've got the right attitude and
You're not a toe dipper?
No, it's like dive in head first, and then you got to figure it out. And that's the way I've always done things. I've got 6 or 7 different ventures, and I'll jump in head first and take the consequences. And then you just have to make it happen. Probably the key to the way I manage and the things that I do are hiring the right people that are enthusiastic and have a great attitude. And then I get out of their way. I have meetings with people about, what do you think we should do with this area? Not this is what we're going to do with this area, but what do you think we should do with this area? Or what direction do you think we should go? And once they come up with a good idea on their own, then I just get out of the way. And it allows me to walk in and out of my business without ever being there. I mean, I don't have to be there. I can leave. I left 5 days ago and came back last night, and I didn't tell anybody I was going. And everything functions because everybody does their thing, and they love doing it because it's their idea. I don't come up with the ideas. I just create the environment, and they come up with their own ideas. And when it's their own idea, and they jump in head first too. It's like a big, fairly happy family.
One thing I notice about when people answer the question about, like, hiring and bringing on people, and you said we look for passion, that's another way of saying culture.
Yeah.
People that prioritize that often understand that it's the most valuable thing that their company has is their culture.
Yep.
So it's usually like an act of protection. Like, of course, I'm going to find somebody that's going to fit here,
right?
Because they could screw that up, and
right.
Everybody would not like their job. And I like my job, and I really like it. So.
No, for sure. I mean, it's the scariest thing about being in business, I think, is that our staff and our team has been so perfect over the years that you're like, if this goes wrong, it could be the end of the company.
Right.
So you're always trying to figure out what do we got to do next to make sure that everybody's happy and everybody's working well together. And the staff kind of does that on their own. When you bring somebody in and they don't fit,
right,
they get moved out pretty quick. It's because it's just not it's such a good team scenario.
If I were to ask you to describe the culture that you've built over there, how would you describe it?
I don't know how I would describe the culture. It's much like a family. I mean, it's there's always people that don't get along. That have different opinions, but we all work towards that common goal. And everybody's passionate about plants, and everybody's passionate about people. We tend to have operations people that aren't maybe as passionate about the people end of it, and we push them really towards the operations end of it, towards the buying and the managing the operations. Right. But the people that are passionate about plants and passionate about people are the people that are out there selling plants to you. And the thing that's key about that is that plants are like puppies a little bit. I mean, it's like if you don't get the right instruction, the thing might not live. So,
poop on your favorite rug.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want the advice going in, or it's just not going to be a successful experience. And especially when it's a new gardener, if they come out and they put something in the ground and it doesn't live, they're just not going to be that happy with it.
Yeah, that has been my experience of gardening my entire life.
Yeah,
really.
I put something in the ground and then I slowly wait for it to die. And I'm excited to start listening more to your podcast and figure out a little bit what I'm doing wrong, because I don't think it's that hard. Like, I think it's science-based
Yeah.
and there's a way to do it, but I've never dug in and been like, I know there's a right time of year to plant stuff, but I don't know that,
right.
like what it is. Like, I know that I should know it, but I've never really dug in. It's just not something I've dug into. But I think it partly is my age and partly is, I don't know, but now I'm starting to get more excited about that. Like, I would really like my lawn to look nice, and I would rather do it myself because that's my personality type than hire somebody and come out to have it all done for me. But I don't know. I kind of ride the fence on that. I kind of think that'd be nice too.
Yeah. What we do with you were talking about lawns. What we do with lawns is a lot of times we'll sell somebody a package for the lawn for the whole year,
Right.
and then we just take a Sharpie and we write on it the 1 through 4 lawn program. None of them work for our area. So if you go to a Scott's 1, 2, 3, 4, they're for
the stuff that comes in the bag.
Yeah.
Like, do this first, this second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're all for up north.
Is that because they're freaking trees?
No, I mean it's just the climate. We're in a transition zone between warm season grass and cool season grass, and so if you pick the right grass and you pick the right program, you can make it work fairly well. Lawn in general in our area is tough though because we're in that transition zone. It's too warm for fescue, too cold for warm season grass. So really, no matter which one you pick, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. But what we do is we mix up a program that works for you with the products that we have, and then we'll just label them. So September, October, December. So
yes, like paint by number.
Right, exactly.
Like I could do that.
Yep, exactly.
Our title sponsors for this show are Diane Kinlaw and Jamie Tulak. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or wish to refinance, why not seek the counsel of a friend who happens to know the Triangle housing market better than the back of her hand? As your local lender, Diane Kinlaw knows how important this area is to you because it's her home too. That's why she's made it a goal not to just be the best loan officer around, but a community leader supporting small businesses with referrals and networking events and supporting local charities with frequent fundraisers. If you're looking to move to Holly Springs or the surrounding area, or maybe interested in a refinance to lower your term or rate, Diane offers a wide array of programs to fit your family's needs. Let her be a part of your path home. A home doesn't have to be a dream. Let Diane make it a reality. You can contact us at www.goprime.com and search for Diane or call 919-624-9541. GoPrime Mortgage Incorporated Company NMLS number 69551. Diane Kinlaw NMLS number 1600777. GoPrime is an equal housing opportunity lender. Today's show sponsor, Jamie Tulak of eXp Realty, has a passion for serving clients and nearly a decade of industry experience as a top producing realtor and designer. Jamie Tulak of eXp Realty will help you reach your real estate goals. Whether you're buying, selling, investing, or renting in today's market, having an experienced real estate expert working for you is crucial. And don't forget to ask her about our Hometown Heroes credit for military, police, firefighters, teachers, and medical providers. Contact Jamie Tulak today at 559-707-1913. That's 559-707-1913. MRP certified. Here's what frustrates me about my lawn, and I'd love to pick your brain about it. So I got large trees. I got a sweet gum tree in the top, which rains those little spiky balls of doom that all over my driveway that are fun to step on.
Yep.
And then I got another one of those in the back. And then I've got really big oak trees. I'm talking like 75 foot tall.
Right.
So I got a couple of those, and then like probably 6 pines.
Yep.
So like raking is always a nightmare. But under it, I've grown this delightful collection of, I wouldn't call it grass as much as weeds and moss.
Right.
That that covers my entire lawn. My neighbor has the same trees. His lawn is awesome. So I know it's not the problem with the dirt. I know it's not.
Yeah, so it's shade. I mean, grass is a weed for a tree, and vice versa. So it's the two of them don't really work that well together. But the key is figuring out where the lawn's going to grow, and you can usually look at a lawn and you can see where it starts to die out and brown out, and then define that area outside of the drip line of the tree or slightly inside of the drip line of the tree, and then really work hard on the lawn that you can grow where you're getting enough sun and there's not competition for moisture.
Yeah. So what about, I got a question for you now that we're talking about trees. So some of my trees have these roots that grow all over the lawn and they just kind of pop up, and can you cut those out with an axe without hurting the tree?
Anything you do is gonna have some effect on the tree. But
is that like asking, like, if you chop off my finger, would that have an effect on
well, it's kind of
Yes, that's
a
like that,
little
Jeff.
bit.
You don't need this. Just
You're gonna have to point with your middle finger, which might get you in trouble.
Yeah.
make life more interesting.
I mean, trees live if you trim the roots. The key when you are trimming roots is to cut roots, clean cut, and then typically the tree will push out new roots. So you can root prune a tree and not have any effect. Concrete driveways are always one where you get a big oak root that goes underneath the concrete driveway and it lifts the driveway out. You can go along the edge and you can actually cut all those roots and the driveway will set back down over.
Oh, really? Because the root will die.
Right. Over a 5 or 10 year period. I mean, the driveway sets back down and it's
that's
not
the
going to.
definition of delayed gratification.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to get my driveway fixed.
Yeah.
Chop, chop. I'll see you in 6 years.
Yeah. And you're not going to do that much damage to the tree by taking out 1 or 2 roots. But the more damage you do, the larger chance you're going to have a disease or something like that.
So of all the stuff that you guys sell in your store, obviously you're passionate about horticulture and plants and helping people out. And I get from you, from doing the podcast and just from talking to you, that you love to share your knowledge.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, you have so much knowledge that it's probably hard to, like, just strike up a it's probably the last thing you want to do is strike up a conversation about plants.
Right.
But would you rather somebody just ask you a specific question and be like, oh, let me help you with that?
Yeah.
So of the questions that come in then, what's your favorite thing to help people with? Like, what's the thing that people are always doing wrong that's so easy to fix, where you like it to be the superhero when you tell people, oh yeah, don't do that, do this?
It's probably soil based, and it was interesting because I had spent the weekend with my son, and he's at NC State, not really interested in horticulture or not really interested in the garden business. And so, what are you thinking? What direction are you going to go in? He said soil science, and I'm like, really? Kind of caught me off guard, but soil science is extremely interesting to me in that it's like when we talked about annual planting and planting containers. The soil is the key to really good soil, and getting the fertility right is the key to success. And then getting the light right, like we were just talking about grass. The further you get underneath that oak tree, the drier it's going to be. So you don't have the water, and then the less sunlight you have. So the plant just starts to decline. But teaching people how to get their soil right. People used to say, dig a $20 hole and plant a $10 plant. And that's not the case at all. I mean, it's cheap. We sell a soil conditioner that's the cheapest soil conditioner out there. And it's one of the best products to put in the ground. I dumped out a bag of Miracle Grow potting soil the other day, tree and shrub planting soil that was $10 next to our soil conditioner, and it's much better soil. But it's a $5 soil versus a $10 soil, but they're going to do the exact same thing basically. But teaching people how to amend the soil, understand the soil, and then understand the heights of the plants, and just how to be successful getting a plant in the ground. Somebody like yourself consistently had a bad. Yeah,
you want your customers' plant to live so that they're excited about planting stuff, so that they come back. Yeah, I mean, you're invested. And no downside for you helping people and giving them all the information.
Yeah, and it's not a money thing. It's just the last thing I want to do is sell somebody something. I mean, I try to talk people out of plants a lot of times.
Right. What is the plant that everybody always wants that you shouldn't plant here?
I mean, Leyland cypress, and we're finally done with it, I think. But Leyland cypress for years, I mean, the entire time we were open, or Bradford pears, I mean, people would come in and they're like, I need a Bradford pear. I'm like, why do you want a Bradford pear? Well, my neighbor has one that's beautiful and it blooms. I'm like, okay, well, it's a disaster of a tree. Your neighbor's going to figure that out soon, but they split. They're poorly engineered as the plant. All the limbs come to one piece on the tree, and as soon as you get weight on it or wind, they split in half. Leyland cypress, there are all kinds of issues with them. But people would come in and that's what they want because they see them all over the place. They're going to follow what the neighbors did. So talking people out of plants like that is rewarding.
What do you think is the biggest bang for your buck, as far as it's a beautiful tree that grows well here that you wish more people would be interested in when they come in and they're like, I want this crazy idea?
This is a fairly common tree, but 2 of the cherries that are early spring cherries, Okami cherry, which is a big oval cherry that fits our landscapes really well. It's taller than it is wide. And then a Yoshino cherry, which is the first sign of spring. Basically, I always say when you see these clouds of white, it's a pink bud, so it looks like it's going to be pink when it opens, and then it turns white. But it's a beautiful tree. I mean, it's definitely the first sign of spring. I mean, those two trees.
Yeah. Has anybody ever come in and asked for a freaking sweet gum?
So there's the fruitless sweet gum.
Is there?
Yeah. Wouldn't you
Can
like
I
to have
turn
one?
my tree into that?
Wouldn't you
is
like
there
to
a
have
way
one
to
of their-
sterilize my fruit?
There
my sweet gum tree?
actually is a solution to your tree.
It's like a shot I can give it.
Yeah, that's exactly what you have to do.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I'm coming in. You got to give me this freaking shot.
Yeah. So we don't. So we don't do it, but somebody like Davy Tree,
Okay.
or Bartlett Tree, they come in and they basically inject the tree, and it shuts down the fruit production.
If you're not from the area and you don't know what a sweet gum tree is, and you're like, that sounds nice, sweet gum, that sounds great. Like it grows spearmint. No, it grows these little like nut shells that look like Hellraiser, like that old horror movie where all these tiny spikes come out of it, and it'll drop about 150,000 of them on your driveway.
And you can't, and you literally can't plant anything under a sweet gum. I mean,
No, it's great. You walk on your lawn and you put these little landmines in it and kill all the grass that's there just by walking on your lawn.
And you're great. Look, I've got coronavirus all over my lawn. It looks like a little.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's the coronavirus tree.
It's the coronavirus of trees. Yeah.
So we do a mushroom workshop every couple times a year, and for shiitake mushrooms.
Ooh, love them.
And so that's my favorite part of growing shiitake mushrooms is you grow them on white oaks, red oaks, or gum trees. So I always go for the gum trees. I'm like, cutting down a gum tree to grow shiitake mushrooms is an amazing thing.
So if I ever cut down that sweet gum tree, which is going to happen,
exactly.
You want me to let you know?
Yeah, we just you save the big logs, and you inoculate the log, and you'll end up with shiitake mushrooms for 3 or 4 years.
How long does one of those live? Because my tree is like this big now.
Big,
and it's starting to do the thing where you can kind of see in it, like the inside's rotting out.
Yeah, it's not going to die.
It's not.
Forget about it.
It's not going to die.
Yeah. You said it like the way that I meant it is how you answered it. You were like, when you have an annoying dog and you're like, what's their life expectancy? And like, oh, that one? That's like 18 years. You're like,
Jack Russell Terrier, 23 years. They outlive parrots.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's great news for my lawn. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a gum tree at the lake that I thought, well, I'll just girdle the edge of it and let it drop its limbs slowly. It's down near the lake, and I thought it's on my property. I could have it removed, but it's big and heavy. So I cut an inch piece all the way around the cambium layer of the tree, which would shut any tree down overnight and have it drop its leaves. And I did it during the wintertime because I thought, well, that way it won't leaf out. Got this dream, the bald eagles fly all around up there. I'm like, bald eagles always land in dead trees. I'm like, I'm going to create my own dead tree out of a gum tree, and I'm going to get pictures of a bald eagle in the tree.
Yeah.
Long-term plan, but that was a year and a half ago. And that tree is still laughing at me. And it's got a hole in the base of it. It's hollow on the inside. Yeah. I've since put a root and stump killer on the inside of the tree 3 times.
Really?
And the tree is just a little bit off color. And sometimes at night I can hear it just laughing, just like you laughed.
So I have some stumps in my lawn, and I feel like I've watched every YouTube video about stump killing. And one of my favorite ones is when people put like a block of thermite. Like, have you ever seen like thermite's this hot burning thing that if you put it on a car, like if you put a bucket of thermite on a car and let the top on fire, it would burn like through the motor down to the ground.
Wow.
It's just like the super hot burning metal thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would be great. I can't get my hands on thermite. I don't know where to buy that. But I had this root, and I saw some stuff online, and they said pour like your vegetable oil in there and then wait. And that worked okay for me, but like wait was like a year and a half.
Right.
Before I could really get in there and
to
do
kill the
anything with an
stump.
axe.
To kill the stump, or just to get it.
I wanted it gone, and so I've been pouring like vegetable oil in it all the time. If I would cook something, like I'd pour the hot wax in there, like die, or the hot grease, like die, stupid freaking tree stump. It's right next to the sweet gum. It's probably a sweet gum root, but anywho, it took like a year and a half, and then like 2 afternoons of me really getting some serious blisters with an axe to remove that thing. What do you tell people is the best way to remove a root?
Well, if you're out in the country, I mean, then you cut a cross in the tree, and then put diesel fuel or something like that on there and light it, and it'll, because you can get air through that cross, it'll burn burnout.
So when you
slowly
say
but
cut
surely.
across it, because I tried burning it, like I tried burning I put like some wood on top of it.
You need to create edges down inside of it. So you make an X on the tree
down to the base of the ground.
As deep as you can get into the tree without hitting rocks and soil. But then a little bit of diesel fuel, and it'll light, and it'll continue to burn because it's got air movement through the center of it. But the easiest way to get rid of a stump is to drill 4 or 5 holes in the stump, and then pile on top of it something like 10-10-10, the cheapest fertilizer you can buy, Miracle Grow, anything. But that breaks that stumps are full of carbon, and microbes break down carbon. But they need nitrogen. They use the nitrogen to feed off of. So when you add nitrogen to it, you're increasing the microbe count, which is
kind of like dry rot. Is that what ends up happening?
Yep.
Oh, I should have thought of that.
Yeah.
That would have been easier. I felt like, just like you were saying about your tree laughing at you, I kept setting this stump on fire, and then I'd put like a bunch of wood on it, and then I'd let it burn down, and then I'd go look at it, and the stump was fine.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like it might as well have been a concrete slab. It's like the bottom of a fire pit. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So my gum tree is just slightly off color, but that's it. I actually went back down, and I'm like, maybe I didn't go deep enough. And I cut all the way around it again, and that thing is still living.
So Josh has gotten into birds a lot recently. Do you guys sell like bird feeders and stuff like
We
that?
do. Yeah. We just actually put 3 bird feeders up at the lake, and it's amazing how fast up there, because there's so many trees and so much wildlife. We put a hummingbird feeder up, and there was a hummingbird there like 15 minutes later. And the same with the birds. The birds just came out of the woodwork. But I feed the birds here in Cary, and it's tons of fun. I usually tell people that's a sign of the times or your age. I always felt like my granddad, that's all he talked about. The bluebirds are back, or the cardinals just came back to the feeders, or whatever it was. I mean, it was like,
there's a switch that goes off. Like, as a teenager, you're like, why are you waking me up right now? What are you doing up?
Yeah.
Like, you need to shut up. And then when you get older, you're like, oh, the birds. What a delightful way to wake up.
Yeah. That's been my thing in quarantine. It's not Netflix. It's Nestflix. I just watch the birds.
Yeah. I mean, it's tons of fun. I mean, it's a pet that you don't have to take care of. I mean, you feed them when you want to feed them, and otherwise they're taking care of themselves. But watching them fly in and do their thing is beautiful. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. We've got a ton of the yellowfinches here. Yeah. Always amaze me, and we sell a tall verbena. And I always tell people, if you don't see yellowfinches on your verbena, you can bring it back. You'll see hummingbirds on the verbena early, or butterflies or bees. And then when the seeds start to die and dry out, the yellowfinches land on there, and they're eating the seed. And so it's this tall, wispy plant that doesn't look like it would support a bird at all. And then all of a sudden you got like 5 yellowfinches on there at one time, pecking away at the seed. So it's selling people stuff like that. It's tons of fun.
What's that called again, Keith?
It's a tall verbena berriensis, or something like that.
Just knowing the scientific name.
And don't ask me how
points.
to spell it.
Yeah. Nobody knows how to pronounce it, so it's like one of the things you can't pronounce wrong. It's like Serbina Culubiuficis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you sound smart.
Sometimes we make it up. No,
who's going to correct you at that point? Like, who's the guy that knows Latin that's going to be like, actually, it's pronounced
verbena.
Yep.
Well, that's very cool, man. I think this is a great idea for you to do this weekend, is to go check out your store. I'm curious, though, how did the last 3 months of COVID-19 impact your business?
It's been a crazy increase in sales.
Really?
Yeah. It's.
What are you guys' hours right now? Did you add hours?
We didn't change our hours at all. We left them like they were. A lot of garden centers actually shortened their hours because they couldn't staff. They couldn't have the staff to support it. We lost 50% of our staff in about a 10-day period. People that didn't want their kids to be working at a cash register during this.
Oh, really? So you
scenario.
had jobs for people, but people didn't want to be exposed.
Right. Exactly. Either people that were older, people that were immune compromised, people that had grandkids.
Okay.
That stayed home for those reasons. So we went from being fully staffed to about 50% in 10 days, and then turned around and geared it all. And then our sales went through the roof. So we turned around and geared it all back up. And at one point, I've got a great new register person, girl that works with us, that she'd been there 13 or 14 days. And I said, how do you think you got this? She said, probably 85, 90%. I'm like, okay, you're in charge of training. and she's done a great job, and she's been there through the whole thing. But yeah, we geared back up and we staffed back up. We hired friends and people that had been laid off and geared them up as fast as we could, and just rolled through it. But extending the hours, extending the hours probably would have been a good idea as far as maintaining distance, but we really didn't have too many issues with it. We got the space out there.
Yeah, you said you had like 5.5 acres, so I'm sure social distancing is not that tricky.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we figured with the number of parking spaces we had, 2,000 square feet a person.
Often when I roll through that road that you guys are off of on a weekend or whatever, people are just parked out on the street. Like, it seems like you run out of parking quite often.
Yeah, most of the parking on the street, it's actually employees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, leaving space for customers, but it always, people always think it's customers out there, and then we'll have customers that park out there and walk in. But we tend to have enough parking.
Did you find that the increase in customers during COVID were looking for a certain kind of thing, trying to grow their own vegetables or something like that?
So veggies we sold, we bought, and we went heavy with veggies really early this year. People come in, they start coming in. As soon as we have a warm day, they want a tomato plant, and they want a specific tomato plant. And so April 15th is our last freeze date, and we can consistently tell people, you're better off if you just wait until April 15th. But March 10th, I planted tomatoes, and I tell people not to plant them, but then I'll go and do the exact opposite, because I want to, if there's a chance I can get a tomato ahead of somebody else, and just have bragging rights, I want to do it. So I decided I was going to order every tomato you could get and go ahead and have them early, and we would just put them on racks and bring them in and out if it got cold. We sold. Did you do that in anticipation, or you thought people are going to want to grow stuff? It was just people. We had already had people asking for tomatoes the beginning of March, and I'm like, let's just get them, and that way people will have what people want. They want them early. They don't mind moving them in and out or covering them up, like myself. So we got what I figured was a month's worth of tomatoes, and we sold out of them in one weekend. Wow. And it never stopped. Like, we sold out of soil, season's worth of 6 months worth of soil. We sold out of in a month, and we just kept reordering, and things got harder and harder to get. But everybody wanted to grow their own veggies, right? Which was fun, because it gets kids involved in gardening. People know where their food comes from. I don't really want more than one person to touch my lettuce, and if it can be me, that's even better. Lettuce is it's got to be touched. Yeah, it really does in some form or fashion. There's not machines harvesting it. So when you're growing your own stuff, you know what was fertilized with, and you know how it was grown, and what it was sprayed with, or what it wasn't sprayed with.
So I grew up, my mom and dad are both big tomato eaters and growers, and I got into growing my tomatoes. Sounds like a terrible cut down. You big old tomato eater. Big old tomato eater. Then you watch movies like the Killer Tomatoes. Remember that? Yeah. But what's your favorite tomato, and how do you like to eat tomatoes?
German Johnson, probably. Better Boy. My granddad grew tomatoes, and same thing. It was like he's watching the birds are growing tomatoes. And, I was going to say red. Yeah, and Better Boy was always his favorite tomato. So for that reason, that's the one I always grew, and it's a great tomato. German Johnson, Celebrity, Mortgage Lifter. Some of those are
What's the big difference in tomatoes? There's so many different.
It's color, size, shape. I like some of the German Johnsons, or some of the bigger, twisted.
German Johnson. That's an interesting name when you think about your Big Johnson, that sort of thing. Yep. Anyway, German Johnson.
That's a good sandwich tomato. A good sandwich tomato. Yeah. Slices. And that's what I always grow tomatoes for. It's like that first.
Are you a BLT guy or more of a burger?
I like it mayo and clean. Yep. Clean. Yep. Just Duke's mayonnaise.
Duke's mayo.
Yeah. It's got to be Duke's.
Salt,
maybe pepper,
and a couple of pieces of bread.
White bread, Wonder bread, something like that. The crappy old bread. Yeah. Something's gonna melt in your mouth. Wonder bread is like the crackers of bread. Yeah, it's like the salty. I haven't really seen Wonder Bread in a long time, but that kind of Wonder Bread.
They were a sponsor in Talladega Nights, and they had the Wonder. He drove the Wonder Bread car. Oh, really? Yeah, I'm in the movie. I had one line. Yeah, but I remember Wonder Bread was. Yeah. Last time I was in the store, I saw, it so confused me. There's Wonder Bread. It's still there. They still have it at the store. Yeah. But they have a whole wheat Wonder Bread that is just white. Huh. Oh, yeah? I don't know where the wheat is or where it's hiding. Wheat white. Yeah. But it's like whole wheat Wonder Bread, and it's still just starch white. Like it's been bleached. That's great. Yeah. I'm growing tomatoes now. I picked them up all at your place. The tomato towers, the red ones.
Yeah.
And they're just skyrocketed. They're 6-7 feet tall now. I don't know what to do. I'm going to climb it to the sky or something. But.
I saw a tomato plant. A customer brought a picture in one year, and you can grow tomatoes in a straw bale. And so you basically you open up the middle of the straw bale and you put a handful of soil in and you plant your tomato in it. And then you go over to the third marks and you open it up and you put a cup of nitrogen fertilizer. And then you put lime on the top of it, and the nitrogen fertilizer starts eating at the bale of wheat straw, decomposing it, and then the roots finally hit the nitrogen. He had it on a cable outside of a paint shop, and so probably not going to be the healthiest tomatoes ever. But the sidewall on the paint shop, he said, was 20 feet, and it was 4 feet over the wall. So it was a 24-foot tomato plant. Wow. And it had tomatoes. He's strapping it on this cable, like a power line cable. And it was clean up 24 feet. And usually when I tell people that, they're like, yeah, I don't think so. But tomatoes are vines. I mean, they're.
So what should I do if I want to cap it off and say enough's enough?
You can just start trimming the top of it.
Trim the top of it. And it'll fill into the.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do is you can trim the top of it and then start some later tomatoes, because tomatoes will kind of get to the point where they're overgrown and they get too dry and they kind of start to die out. But you can just take a snip off the top of it and stick it in the soil. Oh, yeah. And root a whole new tomato plant. So then you've got tomatoes that are going into late fall. You can pick them green. You plant a tomato plant now or in July, and you'll have green tomatoes going into November, December.
Right. So stem those, put them right in the ground. No need to put them in a mason jar and let the water root them out. They just put them in
put them right in the ground and then keep them saturated until they kind of take hold. And
that's where I'm at. I'm digging, no pun intended, but cutting snippets and regrowing things and keeping the cycle going with a lot of things, right? Yeah. Veggies.
Yeah.
Peppers.
It's tons of fun too. It's I always say if you get bored watching a tadpole grow legs or a plant grow roots, there's something wrong with you. I mean, it's like, and I used to do that when I was a kid. I'd take boxwoods and stick them in a sand bed, and then you go and pull them out, and they've got all these fresh roots growing out of it. I mean, it's kind of an amazing scenario.
I picked up some, I think, snapdragons, the tall growing flower, and planted them in the backyard. And then the rabbits got a hold of them, but I cut some of the tops off, and my wife was like, "Let me put that in a jar and just watch." And all of a sudden, it rooted out in the kitchen, and I'm now like, I was like, "Oh, idea! I'm gonna get the anyway." Yeah. So I found a way to deal with that.
Yep. That's perfect.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been a lot of fun. So
absolutely.
Didn't you do a podcast episode about growing a veggie garden recently?
We did.
Yeah. So that'd be a good one to go check out. Yeah. The podcast is called In the Garden with Keith Ramsey. And in that episode, did you talk about like a raised bed or any of?
We talked about a lot of different ways of growing it. Yep.
That'd be fun to check out. Yeah. And what's your address so people can go check you out?
1421 Old Apex Road in Cary.
1421 Old Apex Road.
And you look a little like Dave Ramsey. Is there any relationship there?
There's not. I stood next to a paper cutout of him, and I agree with some of his philosophies for sure.
Do you think you look like him a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Ramsey.
Maybe we're related somehow or another.
Yeah, long lost brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
You're both good with growing things. So
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, Keith. This has been a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Grow it.
This show is produced at Podcast Cary, a professional studio making podcasting simple and fun. Located in Vibe Co-working in Cary, North Carolina. Want to start a podcast to create great content for your business and establish yourself as a thought leader in your city? Go to podcastcary.com. Connect with your audience. Grow your brand.
We love making this stuff for you. You can help us out by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question, what are you doing today?